G'day everyone, today I want to talk about some engineering with paper planes. The chances are you've all made a paper plane before, and it was probably of this variety called the dart. That's where you fold in the edges, fold the corners in, maybe a couple of times, fold the wings out, and you've got a nice dart style plane that flies fairly well. Today I want to talk about two designs that are quite different. One that flies but looks nothing like a plane, and the second one that if you get everything right will fly forever. So let's check out what you need. For our first plane, all we need is a bit of A4 paper. It's nice and simple. The second one's a little bit more complicated. We're going to want some newspaper or phone book paper, something nice and thin and light. We're going to need scissors, a pen, pencil, crayon, something to draw with, and a ruler. We're going to need a big open space with no wind. A hallway probably works, or the garage, something like that where there's no breeze happening. We're going to need a large board. This could be a big piece of cardboard, a bit of wood, whatever works for you. It probably needs to be at least the size of a pizza box lid, or a little bit bigger. The bigger it is, the easier you'll find things. For our first plane, which isn't going to end up looking much like a plane, we need to take our A4 sheet, find about a third and fold that over. You don't have to be super precise here, you just want to make sure that both edges line up quite well. Make sure you press down on the crease to make it nice and firm. Next, we want to fold this third that we've just made in half. And then in half again. Make sure each time you're pressing down firmly on the crease to get it as well creased as you can. Once my folds are made, I want to start bending this piece of paper towards being a tube. To do that, you can use the edge of a table or pinch it between your thumb and forefinger and use your other hand to bend it up and pull it through the gap, sliding down. Do that a couple of times. You'll start to see I get a bit of a curve to my page. Now, I want to unfold the last fold that I did before twisting it into a tube and locking one end under the folds of the other, like so. You want about 3 centimeters of overlap in the gap there. And then just going to press it out into a bit of a tube shape. The last thing to do to lock it in place is to fold back over our last fold. I'm going to start where the two bits join to lock that in place first and make my way around. Once your fold's complete, you just want to squeeze it to a tubular shape and we have our ring wing paper plane. Our second plane is a little bit trickier and you need to be a little bit more precise here. We're going to start with our sheet of newspaper and we're going to draw a rectangle on it that's 21 centimeters long by 5 centimeters wide. Once you've got your rectangle drawn, we want to measure in 2 centimeters from each edge and draw another line across the width. Finally, we want to measure 1 centimeter in from each of the long edges and draw a line along each of those. You should have a design that looks a bit like this. It's quite hard to see on the newspaper, so I'll flash a different picture up on the screen. Now what we need to do is cut around the outside edges, so we've got our rectangle. Once we have our rectangle, we're going to fold up the two ends that we've made with our line. We're going to want those to sit up at 90 degrees. Now here's the tricky bit. We're also going to fold along these two lines. We're going to fold one edge down and the opposite edge up at 45 degrees. Now this can be a little bit tricky. The easiest way I've found to do it is to sort of put your thumbnail on the line and to gently fold as you move along. So remember, one edge up to about 45 degrees and one edge down to about 45 degrees. What we've made here is called a Tumbleweed Glider. So I've got my two 90-degree angle edges on either end. I've got a 45-degree slope at the front and a 45-degree slope at the back. Now let's go and check out how to fly these things. We now have our two different styles of plane. Throwing our ring wing design is quite simple. You want to hold it a bit like an American football. So make a C shape with your hand and sit it in there between your finger and thumb. You want to go forward, throw, sort of rolling it out of your fingers. You don't want to pitch it really hard. throwing a little bit more gently seems to have a better effect with this one. With our Tumbleweed Glider, what you want to do is lift it up by the back flap. The back flap is the one that's folded up at 45 degrees. Lift it up nice and high, holding the center of that flap, and let it go. Now I know what you're thinking, that doesn't fly forever, it just hit the ground. Hold on a second. To get our glider to fly forever, this is where our big flap sheet comes in. What you're going to need to do is lift the glider nice and high in the air up above your head and let it go. You're then going to want to walk along behind the glider holding your sheet like so. You want it tilted at about a 30-degree angle, so not a lot of angle but a little bit, and you want to keep the glider about here. What you're going to do is effectively push the glider along with air as you walk around. There's a really good chance that it's not going to work the first time. It's going to take a little bit of practice to get it right. You might need to make little adjustments on your glider of getting the wings in the right spot and things like that. But when you get it perfect, you should be able to keep the glider in the air as long as you can walk for. As you can see, the Tumbleweed Glider can be a little bit hit and miss, but when you get it in that sweet spot, it works really well. So let's talk about what's actually happening here. For flight, there's 4 forces that are at play. We've got thrust and drag, then lift and gravity. Now, to keep the plane in the air, we need thrust to push it forward and lift to keep it up. That's what we're creating with our board when we're using the Tumbleweed Glider. We're pushing air forward to create thrust, and that air going up over the board is helping create lift. Gravity is trying to pull it back down towards the ground, and drag is the air resistance. And we see that with our ring wing. So when we throw it, eventually it drops out of the sky and falls to the ground because the power of gravity and the drag has overcome the thrust and the lift that we've created in our throw. There's a range of different gliders out there that you can try, lots of different styles. If you have a look for walk behind gliders, you'll see there's a range of different ones out there. Lots of different weird, unusual designs work. So even have a go at making some yourself. Use your newspaper so it's nice and light and see what you can come up with. I hope you've enjoyed the video today and look forward to seeing you next time.